This is the Essentials to Empower channel, and today I'm going to teach you some archery essentials. The most important parts of a bow are the string, the nock indicator, and the arrow rest. The most important parts of an arrow are the point, the shaft, the fletchings, the index fletching, that's a different color, and the nock. Figuring out which eye dominance you are is a very important first step towards hitting your target. Frequently, right-handed people are right eye dominant and left-handed people are left eye dominant, but this is not always true, so this is an important test to do. You can easily do this with the help of somebody else. Simply have them stand in front of you, put your arms straight out and make a triangle with your hands, focusing on their nose. Have them look through the hole in your hands and point at the eye that they can see. When I do this test, people can see my right eye, which means I'm right eye dominant. If you want to determine your eye dominance by yourself, simply find a vertical line, like the place where two walls meet, or a tree. Put your finger up so that you can see they're even, and then keeping your right eye open, close your left eye. Then open your left eye and close your right eye. In one of these instances, your finger should appear to jump off of the line. If this happens when you're closing your right eye, then you're right eye dominant, and if it happens when you're closing your left eye, you're left eye dominant. So when I put my finger up to the tree and I close my right eye, my finger appears to jump about a foot to the right. That means I'm right eye dominant. If you're right eye dominant, you're going to hold the bow with your left hand. If you're left eye dominant, you'll hold the bow with your right hand. If you're left eye dominant and you will hold the bow with your right hand, you can determine if this bow is a left eye dominant bow by taking your left hand and seeing if it lines up. If you're right eye dominant and you're going to hold the bow with your left hand, you can take your right hand and see if that lines up, see if that's the correct bow for you. In shooting, it's very important not to wear anything that could get caught in the bowstring or the bow. Try to avoid bulky clothing, bracelets, necklaces, earrings, anything that could get caught on the string. Also, make sure that you're drinking lots of water and wearing sunscreen, and you have your hair pulled back if you have long hair. If you're shooting in an archery range, you should have the permission of the range commander, the one in bright orange, to enter the range. Be careful to stay behind the waiting line at all times unless directed by the vocal and whistle commands of the range commander. Here are the most commonly accepted whistle commands for archery. 2 blasts. This means archers to the firing line. I remember this because you cross the waiting line and plant 2 feet, one on either side of the firing line. Make sure not to touch your arrows yet. 1 blast. This means remove an arrow from your quiver and begin shooting. I remember this because you're going to be shooting 1 arrow at a time. As soon as you hear this signal, you can shoot all of your arrows. 3 blasts. This happens after all of the archers have fired all of their arrows. I remember this because you will have shot 3 arrows at this point. It means that you can cross the firing line, go to the retrieval line, and stop. This should be followed by the verbal command, archers retrieve your arrows. Then you can collect your arrows and go back behind the waiting line. 1 long blast, or many short blasts. This usually means that something has gone wrong on the range. Stop shooting immediately and put your arrows in your quiver. There are many different types of arm and finger guards. Arm guards protect your arm from being slapped by the string when you're shooting. They should go on the arm that you're holding the bow with. Finger gloves or finger tabs protect your fingers from being chafed by the string when shooting for long periods of time. When it comes to quivers, there's lots of different kinds. You can get one that hangs from your belt, but the most commonly used in ranges are ones that are put in the ground. Make sure to always keep your bow and arrow pointed downrange and only shoot at the target in front of you. Also, never dry fire a bow. Dry firing is when you draw back the string as if you're going to shoot, and then you release even though there's no arrow in the bow. This is really bad for the bow. It can break it, and it can be dangerous to the person that's dry firing the bow. If you drop an arrow while shooting, do not retrieve it until the range commander gives you permission to do so. This keeps any other shooters from hitting you when you go past the line to pick up the arrow. When pulling out an arrow, make sure no one is behind the arrow. Step to the side of the arrow and make an L with your hand. Put it up against the arrow, and then with your other hand, grab as close to the target as you can. Pull straight out. This is the best way to prevent the arrow from breaking. If you lose an arrow behind your target, take one of your arrows or someone else's and stab it into the top of the target. This lets everyone know that you'll be back behind looking for an arrow, and no one will resume shooting until you remove this. Once you've gotten all of your arrows from the target, cover the points with one hand and grab near the fletchings with the other. This prevents you from hitting someone else or hurting yourself in case of a fall. There are 11 steps to go through every time you shoot an arrow. Number 1. After you hear the 2 whistle blasts, get your stance and posture correct. You should have your feet shoulder width apart your knees slightly bent, and your shoulders up and back.
Step 2. After you hear the 1 whistle blast, this means you can begin shooting. Hold your bow horizontally and select an arrow. Always keep your arrows pointed downrange. The odd-colored fletching is the index fletching. That one is going to go straight up. Knock your arrow underneath the knocking indicator. Step 3. Set your hook. Make the scouting sign with the hand that's going to be pulling back the string. You should have your thumb holding down your pinky. Keep the back of your hand pretty flat. Bend your knuckles right here at the second joint. The line where your first joint of your fingers are is going to go right on the string underneath the arrow. Step 4. Set bow hand grip. Make sure that your thumb is pointed downrange and that your fingers curl around the bow. When you set your bow hand grip, your fingers should be in a line like this and your thumb pointed downrange.
Step 5. Raise and extend the bow. Bring the bow to the vertical position, making sure that your hands are still in the right places. Your shoulders should be perpendicular to the target. Step 6. Draw. You want to flex your elbow and then use your shoulder and back muscles to draw the string back. If you don't use your shoulder and your back, you probably won't be strong enough to draw back the bow as far as it needs to go. Draw back to your anchor point. Step 7. Set your anchor. It's very important to have a consistent anchor point, or it will be very, very difficult to adjust how high or low you should shoot. When you draw back, bring your index finger to the top corner of your mouth and place your thumb on the back of your jaw. Your pinky should not be on the string, but curled back behind your hand like this. Step 8. Aim. Make sure that your hook hand is firmly set and your bow arm is fully extended. Concentrate on a small spot on the target. Pause and be deliberate. If you hold this position for longer than a few seconds, you will get tired and shoot softly. Step 9. Release. Simply relax your hand and let your fingers flow back past your face. Step 10 is the follow-through. You have to make sure that your hands stay in this position and your bow arm is fully extended until you hear the arrow hit the target. Otherwise, you could accidentally drop your bow a little bit and change the course of your arrow. Step 11. Relax and evaluate. Relax before your next shot. Think about where you aimed and where your arrow actually hit. Don't get frustrated, but think about how to adjust your shooting to bring your arrow closer to your target. When you have fired all of your arrows, set your bow down and wait for the 3 whistle blasts. Walk to the retrieval line and stop. Locate your arrows. When the range commander instructs you, retrieve your arrows following the safety guidelines, walk them back, put them in the quiver, and wait behind the waiting line until the range commander gives you additional instructions. Once you master shooting at a certain distance, you can move the firing and waiting lines back further away from the target to add difficulty. You can also incorporate games. You can inflate balloons and tape them onto the target and try to pop them, or maybe put a hoop far away and try to shoot inside of it. Remember, practicing correctly is the most important thing that you can do to improve your accuracy and your precision. Please like and share this video if it was helpful, and comment if you have any questions.